Hi, this is the first of a series of short videos about how to get started in leadership. And I know in Youth with a Mission, we have incredible opportunities to take a place of responsibility and leadership and do new things. Fantastic. But I need to kind of talk about your attitude. I want to ask you a question. Are you somebody who feels you're called to leadership? Are you somebody who kind of thrives on the idea of leading others, or are you somebody who is quite reticent? It makes you nervous. You are a reluctant person, and if you lead, it will be reluctantly. And I would say, in a funny sort of way, that doesn't make a lot of difference, because God has calls on people's lives, and for some, they lead beautifully out of a sort of hesitation to lead, and that helps people rally around them. And others lead with a sense of charisma and strength and zeal, and that draws people around them. So different kinds of leadership. And often in a good solid ministry, like a YWAM campus or a large network of ministry, you can have both kinds of leaders, and together they make a really good team. So in our situation here in the United Kingdom, we started with Marty and me, and I was always a person who was quite eager to lead. But the first long-term committed people who got called to work with us was Barry and Kay Austin, and Barry was always a reluctant leader. He was shy and did not want to speak in public, and of course he's turned out to be a fantastic teacher and discipled many, many, many others. And together we made quite a good team. So if you answer the question, are you reluctant or eager or in between, it's helpful to think of yourself in those terms. If you're eager, you're going to have to watch for pride and getting your own identity out of leadership, because that's not godly leadership when your identity is invested in it. Do you know what I mean by that? That is, if you're not leading something or seem to be important in people's eyes, you start going through all kinds of self-doubt. Get that dealt with. Your identity is being a child of God, and then you can lead out of humility. If you're a reluctant leader, don't let that reluctance keep you back from obedience. So whichever way you lean, there will be issues of the flesh, you might say, to overcome. It helps to identify what those are at the beginning, so you'll know what you need to overcome. But then I think there are a couple of different doorways. You could look at leadership from lots of different angles and different templates, but let's look at it this way, especially in the context of Christian ministry and particularly YWAM, but I think it holds true for any Christian ministry. You can come into leadership because someone appoints you or asks you to take an established leadership role. And that's quite common. And probably the most common of all is you've done a DTS, and the leadership of that campus or that school invites you to come back and staff a DTS. And that probably means getting some leadership training along the way and then leading an outreach. And that's a really good doorway into leadership. And if that door opens to you, then your aim should be to really take responsibility. It should be a deep desire to serve behind the scenes, whether you're recognized or not. And to care for people. It's a tremendous opportunity to start taking care of the sheep. And that's a primary part of calling to leadership. Jesus said, especially to Peter, who tended not to be very pastoral, feed my sheep, feed my sheep, feed my lambs. Because he wanted Peter to recognize, and that was an important thing for me too, that what goes into eternity, what lives forever, is the people. Not all the projects and the houses you might build or the clean water you might get, it's the people. So it's important that we orientate ourselves around taking care of God's people. There's another doorway in, though, and that doorway is called a visionary door. And that's kind of how it worked for me. Lauren and Darlene Cunningham were leading my school, and I took a little bit of leadership responsibility there because Lauren asked me to do this or that. And so I got a little feel for it, but not much. There were a lot of other really talented people around, and I took a couple of minor roles. But partway through that school, and then after that school, I had a sense of God's calling on my life to do certain things. And part of that was being asked by Lauren and Dar, would you and Marty go and start YWAM in England? Another one was a letter of invitation to Afghanistan. And that's kind of the visionary door into leadership. And that's a different approach where things aren't quite so settled for you. And you kind of have to make your own way. And I think because there are a few dimensions to that, I think maybe I'll do that in the next session. But put a little bit of thought into this, and self-knowledge, self-awareness. Are you an eager leader, a reluctant leader? Are you stepping into a role where everything is pretty well settled and defined? Or are you starting to try to draw people around to do a vision? So we'll talk about that after a little break. Thanks.